Is this screen visible for everyone?
Yes.
Okie doke. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the CVNet.be webinar on urban logistics. Before we dive into the topic, let me first introduce myself and my organization. My name is Mechelen de Kinderen. I'm a communication manager at Mobile 21. With me is also my colleague Elke Francois, who is a project lead for a variety of sustainable mobility projects. Our organization, Mobile 21, is a Flemish non-profit that sets people in motion towards more sustainable modes of transport. We actively build bridges between citizens and policymakers, connecting them through co-creation and participation processes, as well as citizen science campaigns. And we also build bridges between different levels of government. Through knowledge sharing and capacity building, for example, we connect the local governments, cities and towns with each other and with the regional, national, and even the European level. One way of doing so is through CVNet.be. This is a learning network within the European Civitas initiative that brings together local policymakers from Brussels, Flanders, and Wallonia to help them get a better picture of what's going on the European level. In other words, CVNet.be brings Europe to your town square or to your town hall, for example, by hosting this webinar on urban logistics. To guide us through what cities and towns are doing to tackle urban logistical challenges, we have speakers from Bond Beter Leefmilieu and several Flemish cities in store for you today. We selected these cities as they are all involved in European projects on urban logistics. First up, we have Klaas de Korte, policy expert mobility at Bond Beter Leefmilieu, who will set the scene for us. And next up, we have Veerle de Meijer from the city of Mechelen, Marij Lambert from the city of Leuven, Evelien van Hooijdonk from the city of Ghent, and Anton Renard from the city of Antwerp. They will dive into the more practical side of the story and look at what they are doing in their cities about urban logistics. As I said before, after each presentation, we will open the floor for questions. We have a question, please raise your hand or drop it in the chat, and we will pick it up afterwards. Finally, if we have time at the end of the webinar, we also have an open discussion or a Q&A in which you can also still post some questions to the speakers. So that's all for me for the introduction. I'll close my screen and ask you, Klaas, to share your presentation and maybe briefly introduce yourself so everyone knows who you are.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Merten. I will first share my screen. Yes. I think normally everyone sees the presentation. Okay. So yeah, maybe briefly for myself, I'm Klaas de Korte. I'm a policy expert on mobility is the official title, I think, for Bond Beter Leefmilieu. So at Bond Beter Leefmilieu, we have different teams following up on different types of policy areas, and together with Naomi, my colleague, I'm focusing on the mobility aspect. Personally, I follow more everything around transport, so zero emission heavy duty trucks or sustainable logistics. So maybe just one brief slide on BBL. So Bond Beter Leefmilieu, what's our ambition? It sounds a bit better in Dutch, I just translated, but in 2050, everyone in Flanders lives a good and healthy life without having a negative impact on our planet. It sounds extremely simple, but it's really hard if you think about it and if you try to make it happen. So that's our ambition. And so we're trying to do it by creating policy, trying to work together with governments on different levels. So local levels, but also on regional level, Flanders, federal level, Belgium, and on EU level. We also try to make a bridge between different stakeholders, so businesses, politics, other organizations, and that's the way we think we can change things in the good direction. Why urban logistics as BBL? Maybe this is an interesting part to just give some introduction and background. So in the past, we hosted the Green Deal Sustainable Logistics. I just saw that Bart is also in the room. So he was the coordinator of the Green Deal Sustainable Logistics. and it was funded by the Flemish government. With the Green Deal Sustainable Logistics had the goal to stimulate innovative actions on sustainable logistics, especially sustainable city logistics, urban logistics. And they did it by giving visibility to solutions. We had a website, newsletters, different publications, videos, and it was especially with a lot of partners. So together with governments, companies, NGOs, and organizations. And it was for a few years really an environment where people could think about networking, knowledge sharing, create some debate. What is a good solution? What works for you? What doesn't work? So really to create some debate and also to create policy recommendations in the long term for governments. Just to show a bit who was around the table at the Green Deal Sustainable Urban Logistics. Lots of different companies, bigger ones, smaller ones, cities, governments, so a lot of different organizations. So then sustainable urban logistics, why the sustainable part? For us, it's a really important thing. You have urban logistics, but how do we keep it sustainable? In the left upper corner of the slide, you can see congestion, a normally busy shopping street with a lot of trucks, vans, deliveries need to be done. So we need logistics in cities, in urban areas, but how do we keep it sustainable? How do we keep it livable for the inhabitants of the cities? How do we keep it sustainable for climate? How can we make sure that, for instance, the emissions of transport are as low as possible or non-existent? So that's for us a very, very important aspect. Also, noise, it's a red triangle. There's noise pollution. So it's a really important thing to think about urban logistics and how can we solve things. In the right upper corner, you have the it's already an old picture from 2015, but it gives more or less the indication that, for instance, 90% almost or 85% of the amount of vehicles are cars, and they are responsible for 50% of the CO2. But for instance, if you check on urban logistics, so vans and trucks, then they're responsible for almost 30% of CO2. So even more, 35. So it's a really, really important aspect. So CO2, also the stickstoff oxides, NOx, I don't know how to say it in English, and the particle matters or fijnstof. So also from climate aspect and emissions aspect, it's a really, really big part of our emissions in the transport system. Also, it's still a growing aspect. So transport is still growing, emissions are still growing for transport. So it's really important to tackle this and yeah, take it on. And then another aspect is safety. So it's about road safety. It's about safe cities. So we really need to think about it. One slide, I think it's the only one with most of the things in Dutch. So some comparison, the total CO2 emissions from urban logistics are 3,630 kilotons a year. And to compensate it, we should build a forest the size of Wals Brabant. So every year, so that's a big impact. And here you can see, like, it's a more updated version of the figures I have set in the previous slides. Also, just an interesting thing to know that the last mile in terms of cost for transportation, is responsible for almost 30% of your total transport cost. So a bit some general insights in urban logistics. Maybe I personally think this is an interesting slide because if you talk with people, sometimes they have in their head that, okay, there are extremely, the amount of vans and packages is extremely big, so we need to do something about it. But if you check on the global goods and what's coming into your city, it's not the most amount of it. It's not postal and packages, but it's really everything that has to do with building materials. So trucks and vans going to building sites, building material deliveries. So it's a really big part. It's almost 36%. The figures are varying a little bit depending on what kind of research and what kind of city, but in general, it's more or less the same. So a huge part for building supplies, also general cargo and deliveries, and facilitary deliveries is really big, but only 2-3% is postal and packaging. What's then really important for us, and in Dutch we call it the 4 V's, but I translated them in English. And actually there's a fifth one, and it's vermelden, like it's discussing the impact of urban logistics. So more or less what we're doing now, and for us it's also a really important thing that people are thinking about the impact of urban logistics. And then like the first thing you really need to focus on is reducing the urban logistics. So our aim is to reduce the impact on society, on the cities, by reduction of kilometers that are driven with vans, trucks in cities. We try to avoid extra transport movements or avoid transport movements that can be done in a different way. And that's the second V, or in English an S, shifting. So when possible and when it's better for the environment, for also for the inhabitants, for your city, really try to shift the goods into another mode of transport. For instance, from van to cargo bikes to light electric vehicles, and really try to think what's the most efficient, most sustainable way to transport the goods in the last mile. That's the shifting part. And then the verschonen, it's cleaning. We need clean transport. So the transport that's coming into your city, it's really important that it's zero emission. It's transport is as clean as possible, and there are no emissions anymore. And then a last part, and it's really difficult as well, but the connecting, like the working together, connecting with transport partners, it's also really, really important, because by connecting and working together, you can also help with all the previous parts. For instance, reducing your kilometers by connecting and working together with other transport partners. So yeah, and the other topics, it's a slide from the Green Deal Sustainable Urban Logistics. So it was some kind of way to work on these things by working on the behavior, by working on your organization, on planning and policy, and also on trying to find new technologies and innovations. Then the next part of the presentation, so the first part was more the general part, like what is urban logistics, what's sustainable urban logistics, what's necessary, why do we need sustainable urban logistics. And now I will try to focus more on 3 levels of policy making. The EU level, maybe it sounds a really abstract level and high above our heads, but it has a really, really big impact. Then I'll focus more on the regional level. I'll focus more on the Flemish governments, because I don't really know the Wallonia part, but and then we end with the local policy. So for EU policy, there are some things specific for sustainable urban logistics or urban logistics, but the main parts for us that are really important and that people sometimes forget is in 2027 there will start ETS2, so the new emissions trading system, and there are a lot of different calculations, but I just put some in here. Again, it's just some calculations, sometimes speculations, because it's not clear on what will the exact numbers be. But the impact of ETS2 has an expected cost of 45 euros per ton when it's starting in 2027, but it can add up to 200 euros per ton CO2 emissions by 2030. Again, the specific prices can vary, but if you think about it, it equals to plus 10 cents or plus 15 cents per liter diesel. So if you do the calculations, it can add up to 40, 45, 50 cents per liter diesel in 2030. So also on the TCO, so the total cost of ownership for electric vans, trucks, and also the fleet of your own local government, of your own trucks, your own vans, it will have a big impact on TCO. So the ETS2 emissions trading system will have a big impact, and it's coming really soon. So be aware of it and try to prepare in advance. Then the CSRD, or Corporate Sustainable Reporting Directive, it's also something that's coming. There's still some discussions about it on EU level, but also transport emissions are included in those sustainable sustainable reporting directives and calculations. Two other things, but I will not focus a lot on them. So for sustainable urban logistics, there is a SULP, so Sustainable Urban Logistics Plan, and the EU was already working on it with, for instance, the white paper in 2011, near zero emission urban logistics by 2030. So 5 more years to go. So I think there's a lot of work. I know that Antwerp is creating one as well at the moment. So it's really a multi-level plan that connects, integrates with other parts of local policy, focusing on your logistics plan as a city. Then, yeah, some other areas, the 10T transport corridors on EU level and urban nodes. So we see that a lot of charging infrastructure alongside the 10T network is rapidly scaling up. So also transport will follow there. And maybe one slide on the Flemish government. It's really they invested in the Green Deal sustainable logistics or urban sustainable logistics. But yeah, now there is no more funding. So also we stopped with the project. We're still working on it, but we stopped the project, and it's really a pity because it was a place where people could connect and interact with each other. On regional level, there's a lot of implementation of EU policy. There are lots of different things, but for us, the most important part to really push forward urban logistics in cities was the framework on zero emission city logistics. It's been signed on the Flemish level in June 24, just after the elections, with more than 25 stakeholders. So it was a really big deal for us, and we really believed in it, that it could make a difference to create zero emission zones. But for now, it's pending. It needs to be put into a decree by the Flemish government, but we're still waiting on news on how to proceed. And there is at the moment for us a lack of initiative by the Flemish government. So we're really pushing forward to try to implement or still implement these zero emission zones. Also, there were a lot of pilot projects for zero emission test fleets, for example, in the cities of Ghent and Mechelen, and there are more pilot projects. Then it's almost my last slide. I think I'm still within my time. But for local policy, it's really important to translate the national or the regional policy into concrete measures. It can sometimes be a bit abstract, but try to implement it and make it as concrete as possible. Something we find that's really, really important is the consultation and dialogue with different stakeholders. It's really, really important. And for instance, in the Netherlands, what's a good example is there they have brokers, so people that are really expert in electrification of fleets and, for instance, electrification of trucks. And they try to make a connection between cities, between the policy, and also between businesses. And so really put the greening of your fleet into reality. Also for cities, for local policymakers, like look to your own fleet, make it zero emission, lead by example. It's really, really important. And one aspect that really can help as well is green procurement. So as a city, you put out tenders, buy stuff, make it one aspect of it that it needs to be delivered by zero emission transport, or put in some strict measurements for it. Then to end, it's lots of different tools, but every plan is custom made. So it's not, there's no one holy grail for sustainable urban logistics. It's a different mix for every city. It's about urban planning, it's about taxation, your own fleets. Maybe there are specific windows for deliveries. You can change or change the windows, for instance, when it's with zero emission vehicles. And so there are a lot of different tools you can play with to have an impact. Create city hubs, shared charging infrastructure. Maybe there are businesses that have charging infrastructure, but they don't use it during the day. So there are a lot of different things we can do. And then to finish, because I think it's a really, really good example of what policy can do. So in the Netherlands, since the 1st of January 2025, so now it's been almost 5 months, they started in 17 cities with zero emission zones, and there are more to come. I think by 2028 there will be almost 30 zero emission zones in the Netherlands. So it's quite a lot, and it has a big impact as well, because this is really a slide. It's the share of battery electric vehicles and also hybrid vehicles, but like the battery electric is the green line you can see on the screen, and it's the share of sales in new light commercial vehicles in the Netherlands. And then you can really see that it's spiked. So we have 10%, maximum 20% of electric vehicles, electric vans in the share of sold vehicles. And then with the implementation of the zero emission zones, you can really see that it jumps from 10, 15, 20% to almost 95% of the vehicles, and then it drops down a little bit, but now 90% of the vehicles for light commercial vehicles that are being sold in the Netherlands are battery electric. So for us, it's a really, really good example on if you have a clear policy and you put it forward, it can have a huge, huge impact. So I think that was my last slide. No, almost last slide. We have some publications as well. So if you want to learn more, they're in Dutch. But for instance, on green procurement, we have a publication, and these are my contact details. I think questions are for after all the presentations.
Thank you, Klaas, for that overview. We can take some questions now if there are some. Just an announcement. I switched off my camera for a second and it's now refusing to switch back on. I have no idea what happened there technically, but I'm still here, so apologies for that. Are there any questions for Klaas about that presentation? If not, feel free to ask questions at the end or after other presentations. But then we'll move on to the next one. Veerle de Meijer from the city of Mechelen. Veerle, if you could share your screen, please, or your presentation.
Hello, everyone. Share my screen. Up. On slideshow mode. You see a PowerPoint in slideshow mode?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. So, hi, I am Veerle. I work within the team of mobility for the city of Mechelen on the theme of sustainable urban logistics. And in the next 15 minutes, I want to try and persuade you of the advantages of participating in European projects, even as a smaller city or communal government. What will I talk to you about? First of all, introducing Mechelen a bit and the city logistics in our city, why we participate in European projects, and a couple of examples of what we have done within these projects. Probably known by everyone. We're a medium-sized city of almost 90,000 inhabitants, with a typical medieval city center and a ring road around it, which has its challenges for urban logistics. And if we look at our general strategy on how we built the city and how we try to make it better, it's all about traffic safety, livability, sustainability, and efficiency. And if you work on these general goals, you get nice pictures, as you see here on this slide. People doing sports, shopping, festivities. But if you want to create such a livable and sustainable city, you want people to come and eat and shop, then you need deliveries, you need logistics. But how do you combine this with livability and sustainability? What about the logistics? We need it, but it also creates annoyance, as you see on these pictures. These are some pictures of our center, our shopping triangle, as we call it. And as you see on the picture on the right below side of the slide, you see someone sitting on a terrace surrounded by vans. That's not livable and that's not sustainable. So we have to do something about it, but what? And to name some numbers, we have an average of 7,500 deliveries per week in our city center. 10% of all traffic is logistics traffic. And if we do nothing on sustainability level, 32% of all CO2 emissions by 2030 will come from logistics. So on the level of livability and sustainability, we have to do something. And I will skip this slide because Klaas already explained it to you. We work on urban logistics following the 4V principle. But there are a lot of solutions. As Klaas also already mentioned, there is not one size fits all miracle solution. There are a lot of options, and we try to work on them all. To make it more sustainable and efficient, you can consolidate in hubs at the edges of your city. You can focus on electrifying logistics fleets, focus on loading and unloading zones. Psychologistics also, 32% of all goods can be delivered with a bike. So there's a big potential. Access restrictions, of course, timeframes for deliveries, installing bicycle streets or a cycling zone. And of course, the 4V, verbinden, connect, talk to all the stakeholders. It starts and ends with that. I heard from Merten that there was already a question out of the participants asking, but what should be the role of a city in all these urban logistics and making it more sustainable and efficient? What can we do as a city? First of all, it's all about policy. And that's what Klaas showed also in the Netherlands. If you just install a zero emission zone, the transition will happen. So we have that in our own hands. So formulate flanking policy. And of course, we have to be a good example. See that you can lead by example. Finance innovation if possible. Focus also on communication. We have there also a big tool in our hands to communicate to our citizens, and we can support this transition by communicating about it, and be an expert. Research, learn, ask questions. So I think that is the role a city can play. And then, yeah, let's talk about European projects. Why is it interesting? Why should you participate in European projects? Well, I try to sum it up on one slide. A lot of the times, I know when I started working for the city 8 years ago, they mainly saw European projects as a burden, as extra work. But that's not at all the case. It can help you because you get budget from Europe, first of all, to invest in extra personnel. For example, I am financed with European subsidies. So it is an opportunity to get extra personnel. You get extra exploitation budgets to really realize things in your streets. You can also learn a lot from other European cities, exchange experience, and replicate what has already been proven in other cities. It gives you also the opportunity to focus on innovation, to actually implement something, and to learn by doing. Don't study too much, just do it. And yeah, how do we work on it then? Via European projects. On the left-hand side of the slide, you see all the projects on urban logistics that we actually have running now in Mechelen. And I started alone, but I now am lucky. I have two colleagues that join me now in working on urban logistics. And we have been doing it mainly via European projects. And we've mainly done it via a bottom-up way, so learning by doing. A lot of the times, a city in a European project is there to implement a pilot project. So that is what we have been doing these last years. We have been testing via trial projects. We have done a lot of psychologistics projects, experimenting with a city hub, with a micro hub. And in that way, you create awareness. And I have to tell you, that's still so necessary. An average shop owner in a city, he's not worried about his logistics. He doesn't think about it. He doesn't care if it's sustainable or not. So we need to create a lot of awareness. But of course, in the end, we have to end up with policy. And as already said, it takes time to create behavioral change. And how do we position ourselves within a European project? How do we sell ourselves? We say that we are an ideal demonstrator partner, so that we really want to implement stuff. We have experience in co-creating. We have a strategy of learning by doing. We already have good stakeholder networks. We work in close cooperation with academic organizations. That's a lot of the times important within European projects, the triple helix. And we focus on citizen participation. Now, yeah, and to end my talk, I want to give you some examples that are easy in implementation, that don't cost a lot of money, but that creates an impact. And first of all, yeah, the 4V, verbinden, connect with stakeholders. We have been talking a lot already with our stakeholders, and mainly with logistics companies and interest organizations such as Transport Logistiek Vlaanderen, Verbetra. It helps to understand the sector and how they operate. And we try to officialize this within a covenant in September 2020. It's already been signed now by almost 35 logistic companies, where we set the common goal to achieve zero emission by 2030. But that's something that you can do as a smaller city also. Just pick up the phone, send a mail, and go into discussion with your most important stakeholders in urban logistics. What else did we do? On psychologistics, remember 32%? We published for 4 years in a row a subsidy scheme where entrepreneurs in Mechelen could receive a subsidy when switching from a car or van to a cargo bike. So I have the scheme, the texts in Dutch and in English. So if you're interested, just ask me and I'll send it to you. And we had over more than 40 companies that did this switch and are now operating with a cargo bike. What else did we do? I already mentioned communication. We set up a separate website on Bakfietsen. The URL is on the top of the slide, where we give some explanation on the different cargo bikes, where we have testimonials from heavy users, you could say. So, and it was incorporated in a general citywide campaign on sustainability. Just take a look at the website if you have some time. What else did we do? Shared cars. We mainly have Cambio present in Mechelen. And we said, like, how can we promote this to entrepreneurs, to shop owners? Because when doing a survey, we realized that a lot of shop owners still do a lot of their logistics themselves. Go pick up goods, go deliver their sold online sales to be post, and they all do it with their own car. And we set up a campaign to promote car sharing, and we put an electric bigger car, as you see on the picture, in the city center, so close to the shops. And we presented a startup budget of 150 euros with which they could test out the shared car. We made a nice video on it. I don't think we have the time to show it, but I think the presentations will be shared afterwards. So just click on the link and get inspired. And then, of course, lead by example. If you're not doing it yourself, then you don't have the right to ask it from other people. So what we are doing now is already having as much as possible of our last mile done by the local bike courier. He operates from a hub. So all the things that we order are being delivered in the hub and are being delivered with the bike courier. What are the advantages? A bike courier doesn't have to take into account the timeframes for delivery. He can go in and out of the city all day long. And you can convene a specific time and day with the bike courier when he comes and delivers your goods. So it creates more convenience. And of course, Klaas already mentioned it also, we are trying to electrify our fleet as much as possible. And we are also investigating what we can do with the cargo bike. And then this is not a European funded project, but a Flemish funded project. We had the pleasure of setting up a test fleet of zero emission vehicles. So we had a range of vehicles going from a cargo bike to a large electric truck financed by the Flemish government. And we invited logistic companies and entrepreneurs in Mechelen to just test it, because we feel that there are still a lot of no's towards electric vehicles, the price, the range, where to charge. So we said, just try it out for 2 weeks and see if your issues are real or not. And then the last example, be an expert. I also heard from Merten that there was a question, what about charging infra? What do we have to do there as a city? And we had the luck of participating in a small-scale Interreg North Sea European project, where we had the time to map the need for public charging for logistics. And how did we do that? I interviewed companies and organizations. I interviewed, for example, Colruyt, DHL, but also Vebetra and TLV. And I will not bore you too long. I just give you here the main conclusions. You still see that electrification is still a story of early adopters. And that there's still the big majority to follow. We are also apparently a country with a lot of medium-sized companies, and for them it's still more difficult to make the investment. But what I heard from companies that are already doing it, they say you have to see that you charge as much as possible on your own premises. And DHL and Colruyt, they said that they can, Colruyt said that they can do all the charging on their own premises, so they don't need public charging. 90% of all their trajectories can be done with an electric vehicle, so only 10% is a problem. I I think we think it's a bigger problem than it is in reality. But they say if you complement it with something, then complement the charging on premises with fast charging on highways. And the challenges, of course, are, for example, still the driving range, the TCO, less for vans, but more for trucks. And then you have the specific issue on electric vans. They weigh more than a diesel van. And in that way, they weigh more than 3.5 tons. And then you need another driver's license. You need to have the onboard units, no, the tachograph. So yeah, in electrifying the logistics fleet, you get confronted with also other challenges. So yeah, that was it. I hope I gave you some examples of which you say, yeah, I can try that too in my city, or yes. I can also tell you that if you are, it doesn't need that much of work in writing the proposal. If you have a good project lead and you enter in the consortium as a pilot city, the workload of writing what you have to do is doable. So don't be afraid of the workload that you will be confronted with. It will deliver you a lot of more advantages. So I hope I have convinced you that participation in EU projects has absolutely its advantages, that it's important that you define very clearly the role you want to fulfill. And it gives you the opportunity to work, for example, on stakeholder engagement, subsidies, to subsidize initiatives, to really test out things and to communicate. So thanks for your attention. I'm open for questions. And if you have questions afterwards, don't hesitate to send me a mail.
Thank you very much, Veerle, for that insightful presentation and for running through all the benefits of these kind of projects in the EU funding. Are there any questions for Veerle from the audience? If not, just reach out to her via her email address. I'll also send it to you after this webinar. And then we can turn to the city of Leuven. Marij, can you share your screen, please?
Yes, I'll try. Can you see it in presentation mode?
Yes, very well.
Okay, great. Before I start, thanks a lot, Veerle, for your inspirational talk. I wish you would have a podcast and I could listen to you like every 2 weeks to keep motivated.
Thanks, Mette.
Yeah. But I'm lucky to be in several projects or discussions with you, so I get inspired every so often. I'll give an example of the Greenlock project. It's a European project. And yeah, so it's less about the strategy as Veerle did, but more about how can you use a European project and apply it to whatever is useful for your city. It's about logistics as a service. I'll explain what that is, but obviously it is to promote sustainable deliveries. In 3 cities, they're present, so Leuven, Ghent and Mechelen. Evelyn from Ghent is here as well, and of course Veerle from Mechelen. We're in the Flemish Living Lab together. There are several living labs in the project, and one of them is a Flemish one, and we are 3 cities. In my presentation today, I will give you some facts and figures about city logistics in Leuven. I'll tell you about Greenlock, about what the concept of logistics as a service is, and then how we apply it, or how we are going to apply it in our cities. And I'll also present the example of Mechelen. I have less pictures of real things happening in our city in Leuven, because our projects are mainly on data and digitization. But I'm very much looking forward to the pilot of Greenlock, because then I will finally have pictures of cargo bikes running through my city. Of course, we have cargo bikes present we have Urbike operating in our city. They do lots of business already, but we might involve them in our pilot as well. So some facts and figures. Yeah, so we have medieval narrow streets, and sometimes we have chaos due to city logistics. And then if it also rains, it's really a pitiful sight. So that's why we want to be involved in European projects, in Flemish projects, to organize our city logistics better, to make it more efficient, to make it more sustainable. We noticed that talking about efficiency is more effective than talking about sustainability. Even more now after the elections in Europe and Belgium and Flanders and the local level. So yeah, that's maybe something. If you pick up the phone, as Vela says, and you talk to your stakeholders, first talk about efficiency. What are their challenges? What are their needs? And how can you solve it? And in the meantime, make it more sustainable. You'll more or less recognize the graph on the right, because Klaas already mentioned it. So we did a study in Leuven, and we tried to analyze the kilometers driven, the number of trips, and the share of each logistics segment in our city. The study was done by Rebel. It's based on real data, not traffic counts, but we offered them, like we gave them the functions of our buildings. We gave them the the landscape of our trade system. We gave them figures about waste collection, about the number of households, the number of students. So we have 104 inhabitants and plus 50,000 students. And based on all this data, combined with a delivery profile model, they were able to give us this graph, so we know how what the share of vehicle kilometers per logistic segment is. So no surprise, or maybe it is a surprise. I'm not sure. E-commerce is only 5% of the kilometers driven within our city, so the ring road and the inner city. And construction is 41%. Adding to that, service logistics. So service logistics is like the plumber, or somebody who comes and repair your coffee machine at your in your coffee shop. Then there's hospitality and catering is 14% of kilometers, retail non-food 11, facility services 7%, waste 4, and retail food also 4%. You can do the same analysis, but then for emissions, because then it takes into account also the type of vehicle that the companies typically use to deliver their products to, for example, a restaurant or a supermarket or a small retail shop, or a company that needs paper or coffee. not sure why I'm mentioning this coffee so much. Anyways, so then construction will have a lower share because they do part of it in vans. Hospitality and catering will be a larger share because they use a lot of large trucks that are refrigerated, and almost none of them are electrified yet. And then e-commerce comes down to 4%. It's not mentioned, but it's 4. And I think this is on the right, the graph on the right is interesting as well, because then you know what the vehicle types are that we are looking at. So if you have a construction site in your city, you know that there will be vans involved. The orange is Bestelwagens, it's van. Then the gray is the trucks, and N2, and yellow is the larger trucks, the N3 vehicle type. And so we received this study and we concluded that there are 4 most impactful segments that we would like to focus our projects on. It's hospitality and catering, retail non-foods, construction logistics, and service logistics. And this is really based on the presence of, for example, or the share of restaurants and bars in our local landscape or trade landscape. It's based on the vehicle types. It's based on the TCO of electric vehicles. Like the example I gave you of the refrigerated large trucks, they won't electrify any soon. Whereas vans will, well, the TCO is almost level for electric vans or the traditional alternative. So that's why I think this study was useful. So we didn't count, we just used the model. And if you would like to do that for your city, you can contact Rebel and do the same. Because I'm sure you will have the data they need to do this, and they have this model that has been tested already. But you can also check the Flemish publication. So it's actually the Flemish government that ordered this study for 3 Flemish cities, and yeah, they did like an average study for the average Flemish city. So you can look into that as well, and maybe if you know what the share of restaurants is in your city, then you know there are a lot of trucks that are involved. If you would think about a new policy, then you might focus on electrifying these trucks or on, but because the electrification will take a long time, you can look into a consolidation center for HoReCa and catering. That's what we tried in Leuven, but it didn't work out, unfortunately. And then Green Oak. Okay, so it's a Horizon Europe funding project on green city logistics. It will last until June 2026. The 5 living labs, one of them is our Flemish living lab, and we will test the last platform as a one-size-fits-all, as a common framework, but we will apply it in our 3 cities. There are 2 demos, so one of them was in November until February, and like in Leuven we did a data demo, so not really a physical testbed, but in Mechelen they did something that I will explain later on e-commerce. And then we're based on that first demo, we're reworking the technology, and we will have a final demonstration from November until February 2026. Logistics as a service, you might know mobility as a service, like an app you can use, and then you're the consumer of mobility and you need mobility. You need to get from point A to B, and in that app you will have the several suppliers of mobility services like trains or shared mobility or shared bikes, e-bikes, and you can order everything you need to get from A to B in that same system, because there are several suppliers linked to that system. And logistics as a service is almost the same. It's also a platform in which logistics service providers are present. There's a consumer of logistics that needs transport. So that's the demand. And then there are suppliers that can offer you this demand. So the platform matches shipment demand with available logistics services. It could be one logistics service provider with a cargo bike and e-vans. It can also be several logistics service providers. So that's the easy part. And then we add dynamic pricing to the mix and nudging techniques, because we really want to analyze what the role of the consumer can be in this last setup. We want to know how we can influence this consumer to make the right decision, and the right decision is the most sustainable decision, but could also be the most convenient decision, and sometimes it's the same. Maybe that's too complex. So let's dive into this decision model. So we start at the bottom. At the bottom is where the transport demand is entered. So somebody says, I'm a local shop and I want to send my lemonade to my local customer. And yeah, so what are the options, the delivery options in the system then? There are several delivery options. Could be a very polluting van, an e-van or a cargo bike, can be during rush hour, could be outside of rush hour. But we are going to, so then we will use the system and business rules linked to the system to nudge towards the most preferred option for the city, but also the most preferred option for the consumer. So starting from the bottom, there are the hard rules of the city, like there's a time frame in this pedestrian zone. You cannot enter the city after 11 o'clock. So we enter business rules we add business rules to this last system. There are, of course, constraints linked to the order. It could be like refrigerated, and you have to take into account the cold chain. There can be a constraint linked to the LSP, because the LSP only has LSP is a logistics service provider, has only cargo bikes available, for example. Then we will also try to use the pricing to promote consolidation. So consolidation is bundling. The aim of a last system is that there are several individual demands of transport, and we would like to try to consolidate all these demands and to do this demand in only one round, for example, and then we can reduce trips or shift trips to a better timing or to a better vehicle. And the idea behind the dynamic pricing is the more you consolidate, the lower the price per drop will be. But if you don't have this technology that links this individual demands of all the neighboring shops, then everybody pays the highest flat fee. But if you would combine it, if you would have the same pickup round for your shopping area, for example, then the price per drop will be lower, or per pickup will be lower. Yeah, so you need technology and data to be able to calculate this dynamic pricing. And then we'll have nudging techniques. For example, if you're able to wait for your delivery one more day, then there's more. Then it will be a zero emission delivery, and the logistics service provider will drive less kilometers, and then you will earn more green leaves or more monopoly money or something. That's the way we nudge them above the other nudging towards options. And then there's the personal preference of the consumer. Maybe the consumer is home tomorrow and it's very convenient that the parcel is delivered tomorrow. So it's not only linking demand and to an LSP, but it's really nudging towards the most preferred option. And then how did we apply this in Mechelen? So there's the first demo that has run during 3 months in Mechelen. They wanted to reduce the growing number of white delivery vans circulating in the city. I wanted to streamline or better organize this urban logistics by consolidating e-commerce parcels in an urban consolidation center, and then from that urban consolidation center, deliver the parcels, the e-commerce parcels in a consolidated way in zero emission to the homes of that area, of that neighborhood, or in a locker. So if somebody ordered something at bol.com online, they gave the address of the consolidation center in Mechelen instead of their home address. The consolidation center was notified about the parcel coming towards the UCC. I'll say it's Urban Consolidation Center, UCC. And then the system took care of selecting the LSP that could bring the parcel to the home of the consumer, and the consumer had the chance to pick the option that was their preferred option. Could be the more sustainable one with a lower price because it was less. Because their neighbors were already serviced as well, so it was cheaper on Wednesday because a lot of parcels had to be delivered on Wednesday. I simplify it a bit, Veerle, but of course there was more to it. But the results were promising for the second demo. The results of the first demo were during 3 months where they activated 58 users in one neighborhood. 497 parcels were delivered in 94 cargo bike trips, and that meant a reduction of 41% in delivery tours. So instead of 178 vans driving to each individual home, they had 94 cargo bike deliveries in consolidated rounds. And what was important in this first demo was the role of the user, so the consumer, and how they would react to this nudging and to this dynamic pricing. We noted a high participant engagement, and that sustainability and convenience were themes that were prioritized over delivery speed. So they were willing to wait. And that's really important to know. Consumers are willing to wait. They don't have to receive their parcel today or tomorrow or ASAP. And that was one of the nice takeaways of this first demo. And this is more or less the same. So you see, speed is it's not the main reason to select a preferred option. Then I'll switch to Ghent. So that will be tested in the second demo starting in November. There the focus will be on local commerce. So they want to support local food producers by centrally organizing sustainable city logistics, and so using the LAS. The situation now is that local food producers in Ghent handle their own deliveries. It's time consuming. It's not very efficient because they have their own, sometimes they bring it with their own car, or they pay a high price because they have individual contracts. And the volumes are low, so it's hard to find an economically viable solution for sustainable logistics. So that's why they want to go for this consolidated delivery solution. And that will be, so we will, if you want to know more, I suppose it's better to reach out again in February, and we will have the results of the Ghent case of the second demo in Mechelen, which will be more or less the same as the first one, but then in a larger area for almost the entire city center, with more service logistics providers linked to the system. And maybe you can also reach out to Leuven in February, because I have high hopes that we will have a good demo here as well. It's not a commercial focus here, it's on food surpluses. So food surpluses, it's not food waste, but it's everything that can still be eaten, and we would like to identify where those food surpluses are in the city, and we would like to bring it to social organizations that need it for vulnerable citizens. Normally that would be really enough, but we really want to do it in a sustainable way. So I think you can do something that is socially valuable in a broader way. So including sustainable city logistics in this demo is important. And we have a cargo bike driving in our city, but they really need a constant capacity for their drivers and for their material. And maybe you have cargo bike companies in your cities as well, and you will notice that they are really struggling. So I think it's important to do this pilot with them to see how we can use their material and their drivers more and reach this constant capacity so that they can do more business. And yeah, so in the last we'll detect the transport demand, but linked to the transport demand there will be the way of saying, well, I have food surpluses, can you come and pick it up? The food surpluses will come from local shops, from hotels who have breakfast services and have leftovers, and we will bring it to social organizations the day, same day or the next day. We will use cargo bikes and we will use micro hubs. And the last system will organize it all, and we will nudge towards the most sustainable solution and the solution that is like outside of rush hours. That will be a good solution as well. And I think that's all for me. But as I said, we are very happy to share the findings of our second demo in February, and we'll hopefully be at the Polis conference. You can meet us there as well, and otherwise just drop us an email and we're happy to share our experiences.
Thank you very much, Marij, for guiding us through that Green Log project. It's really interesting. Are there any questions for Marij about this project? I'll check the chat as well, but I don't think so. No, not for now. Okay, then we'll move on to Ghent, to Evelien. Evelien, could you share your presentation, please?
Yes, I will. You can see my presentation?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll present another EU project, DISCO. DISCO is also has the same timeline as Green Log, but in this case, DISCO, our living lab, has ended in April. So I can present you some concrete results. DISCO has started in 2023 and will end in 2026. As mentioned, we ended in April with our living lab, and then our results are transferred to other twinning labs. I added here the link to the overall website, so if you want to know more, go and have a look. I will just start. Why did we decided to work in DISCO? As Klaas already mentioned in his first presentation, urban logistics brings a lot of challenges, congestion, more emission, unsafe situations, but also city rules are not transparent. That was the biggest issue, actually. We have like a low emission zone, some kind of car-free zones and so on. So if they drive through our city, they have like fines because they don't know the rules, and it leads to a lot of inefficiency in logistics. And the green last mile, as mentioned by Marij, they don't reach their potential. So we think here about cargo bikes mainly, but also electric vans. This is the Living Lab Ghent with our partners. Phil coordinated it. EMAC was like a knowledge partner. B Mobile made the technical implementation, and OHB was Green Last Mile. And we were, of course, also involved. We focused mainly on those not very transparent rules in our city. And I want to show you how we did it. And that's the easiest way is just to have a look at our video. I'll try again with sound.
And bustle. Every day, thousands of vehicles pass through the streets to supply stores, businesses, and residents. But all those deliveries cause congested roads, increased emissions, and sometimes unsafe situations. How do we make those deliveries safer, more efficient, and more sustainable? The solution lies in smart, data-driven logistics. Through the European-funded project DISCO, the City of Ghent and partners are working on a future-oriented approach to make urban logistics more sustainable by exchanging data. But how do we do that? In Ghent, we are digitizing traffic and logistics rules. Crucial data such as access to car-free zones, avoidance of school areas, the low-emission zone, loading and unloading zones, and sustainable last-mile partners is shared with technology partners and company planning systems. This allows logistics planners to use that data to align delivery times with traffic conditions and rules in the city. The result? Safer delivery times, less disruption, and environmental-friendly traffic flows for stores, businesses, and residents. By sharing data and developing smart technology, we are making sustainable logistics in cities possible. This is how we take the first steps towards a sustainable and healthy future. Will you take this step with us?
Okay.
Ghent.
Oh. This video explains what we did actually. So you actually see the testers in the video. And what did we do? So B Mobile made your urban access control system. Here you can see how it's like implemented. So you have like these urban access rules. They check these urban access rules against the planning of the logistics service provider, and they say, okay, you have a lot of conflicts, and this is what we recommend to resolve these conflicts, and also some points of interest on your route, which means the loading and unloading zones, for instance. It was tested in by a traffic management system. And the testbed was drop-on with some clients of them who use it as a logistics service provider. That's what I already told you. If you just, this is a small video about how it looks then. A lot of logistics service providers use traffic management systems. So the goal was to optimize these traffic management systems with concrete rules in our city, not only like low emission zones, but also school zones or even bicycle lanes. And you can see then, okay, you have these red flags. You can see why it's red flagged. It's a low emission zone. The logistics planner can see what kind of rules they need to comply with. The tests. The test has been done, and these are like the main figures of the tests. One of the experiences was that the route length was shorter, and that, of course, 10% of the planned routes even included close off school streets during the scheduled time, transport time. So we cannot expect as a city that all logistics service providers in our cities just comply with the rules in our cities, like school streets were locked off during opening and closing hours of the school, for instance. But you have like these small rules and you have like these really big rules, like a low emissions. It is tested. So you saw one of the drivers in our video, and they really said, okay, this way of working reduces the stress and the complexity of our deliveries in the city of Ghent. So there is really a question from logistics service providers to implement these kind of technological innovations. One of those ideas is, of course, and that's also something from Europe, clear communication is needed. But of course, if you talk about logistics, that's across borders. That's not just in our urban environment. We digitized extra rules, and you can see that rules by digitizing your urban access rules, and that's like shopping street, low emission zones, play streets, bicycle streets, school zones, residential areas, primary and secondary roads, unloading zones. That all combined, you can even nudge desired behavior on routes that are those point of interest or just flag marks from, okay, here you have a school or you have bicycle streets, be aware. These rules, of course, apply even for passengers transport, but also for freight. Some only apply for freight, for instance, tonnage limitation. What did we do? We digitized our loading and unloading zones. That was the easy part. But as Veerle mentioned, why cooperate in EU-funded projects? We had a budget to digitize extra data. We decided to do it for school zones because when we B-Mobile made the urban access control, they did it manually. That's not very interesting as a city because then you have to ask on all those tech partners to do these kind of things manually by even a simulation. So they thought about, okay, where would the trucks be driving in the city of Ghent? There are schools, so we will just add these kind of school environments. The mobility department in the city of Ghent was already thinking like for years, how can we make those school environments more safe? They thought about a lot of different things. And one was to lock down even schools for freight, but that was even not possible to implement. And together we thought about, okay, if we just digitize the school entries of the children where they actually enter the school, that's already something we can like put in our open data portal, and tech developments can use it as points of interest. Of course, that's not only for logistics, but also for other technological innovations. That's not only for logistics. We already had like the locations of the schools, but not where the children actually entered the school. We had money to do this. So we worked together with Traject and they did a consultation at all primary schools in Ghent, that are like 129. And because the way we handled it, we had like 100% response rates. Okay, maybe 99%. And the impact is, of course, clear. You can have like those innovations easily. Yeah, like you facilitate those innovations. You don't ask like from a drop-on or an Be Mobile, just do it manually. You can use it. And internal organization like the Department of Schools and the Department of Mobility said, yeah, then we can we can use these data sets even to have like an advice in certain problems in the school environments. So, of course, I can say that just digitize your rules as a local government, but that's a problem. So we did the next step. We made a kind of connection with other cities to see if we can like easily interchange data with companies like Be Mobile or Drop-on or other companies, but they don't have digitized their rules, urban access rules, for instance, or other things. We have an open data portal. You can see it here. But that's a lot of investment in expertise, time, and digital tools. In the meantime, of course, Europe wants us to digitize our urban access rules or even just our public domain. So they can use it as for a GPS systems or just to have a clear view on mobility. But then, yeah, we don't really have the tools to do it. It's not feasible. That's what we heard. This is why we want to move on with this DISCO. We want to sustain and facilitate to make these kind of data sets, the policy rules and these busy points in your city. And we're looking at taking action and applying for new projects. First, all on data space technology, but of course, we as Ghent, we're already working together with other cities, but that's on another project on standardization of mobility information. And we want to continue this by the uses of data space technology. So other cities, small and big, can digitize their just their public domain in the overall idea. So if you want to collaborate or you have any questions, you can contact me or you can ask them now.
Thank you very much, Evelyn. Really interesting to see those traffic signs move into the digital online world. Are there any questions for Evelyn about the DISCO project? I also noticed there was a question about the previous project about Greenlock, about the labor cost, but I saw Marij, you already responded to it in the chat. I hope this answer suffices. Otherwise, do raise your hand again. Any other questions at this point? No? Okay, then we can move on to the final presentation for today by Anton from the city of Antwerp. Anton, have at it.
Yes. You see the presentation already? Okay.
Yes.
There. But it's not in. How can I go to presentation? Okay, there we go. So yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Anton from the city of Antwerp, and I will guide you through the project we have at the moment, but also our sustainable urban logistics plan that is that we want and try to finalize the coming years. So I'm gonna start with what already has been said. We try to achieve a modal shift as a lever for an accessible and livable city, as Veerle already mentioned.
Tom, sorry, can I interrupt for a moment? I don't think your slides are following, but I can move them along, I see here.
Okay, yeah, there it goes. Okay,
Okay.
sorry. Yeah, we're facing the same challenges as every other city. We're facing safety issues, we're facing emission and pollution problems, but also infrastructure and land use problems. What we try to do is find solutions in all kinds of ways: space for logistics, access, policy, model shift, bundling, but also smart solutions. Most of the time, it's data-wise or digitalization. So I'm gonna try to go through the story. I'm gonna start high level with the sustainable urban logistics plan, and then we're gonna dig a little bit deeper into some projects we have. So our sustainable urban logistics plan, as Veerle already mentioned, and the other cities as well, the most driven vehicle kilometers are in construction, and e-commerce is only a small part of it. So our present challenge is the growing focus on traffic safe and traffic livable city, evolving transport demands for residents and business, and keeping the city accessible through a model and time shift. The ambitions we are writing down in our sustainable urban logistics plan is the use of traffic safe routes, traffic safe handling at destination, most suitable vehicle, delivery at the appropriate time, so time shift, avoiding inefficient transport and connecting stakeholders and solutions. But we also implemented in our SILP, in our concept SILP, because it's not finalized, is area-based approach. So we have a medieval city center, then a ring road, and then some suburbs, some districts at the border. So we try to achieve some area-based approach for every zone we defined. Of course, the SILP is stakeholders. So the approach is that we consulted a lot of stakeholders in this plan. This phase has already been done, but I wanted to put it in the slide as well because it remains very important to keep everybody involved, to see what the sector talks about, to see what the issues are, and to see that we find some mutual challenges. Then we have the freight route planner. That's a planner especially made for logistics. It's actually a spin-off of a European project called Scale Up, in which we try to find and to design a planner for freight routes, for freight. So we included several routing parameters, such as pedestrian zones, road categories, tunnels, turning circles, school zones, and school areas. Pedestrian zones, those zones we need to avoid, but sometimes we have some window times. So for some hours during the day, it is allowed to enter the zone. Road categories, we want to have the trucks, the vans, as long as possible on the highest road segments. tunnels and bridges, although we have a lot of signs that it's not accessible by trucks, we keep getting some problems. Turning cycles, it's the same. It's not very convenient in the applications, the routing applications. School zones and streets, school streets, we try to avoid as well. So this is what the route planner looks like. We're gonna put him on, it's gonna be online at the end of this month. So what you see is the lowest orange line is the line that is followed by a truck, and the other line is followed by is actually the car routes. So there are some differences, trying to avoid school areas, trying to stay on the highest road segment as long as possible. Then we also have like the car-free zones. There are also attached to the freight route planner and pedestrian zones. We also have another project called Construction Site Charter, which we try to engage together with the sector, the construction sector, to make some agreements, trying to avoid school areas. We also included the freight route planners so they can use this planning tool to get from A to B in the city center. We also give some information about how to get into contact with us and try to involve them as long as possible. So the goal is improving traffic safety in the construction. Also transport to and from construction sites, vehicle and equipment. We also give some recommendations. And as a city, we try to communicate, like the route map I told about, and guidance as well. Right now, we're also working on another one. It's a supermarket charter, so we also try to engage the supermarket sector to do the same. At the moment, we're trying to finalize this document as well. It's kind of similar, but still a little bit different. Then we also have sustainable urban logistics in tenders. So what we try to do is make some lead by example. So we try in our tenders we ask for a report, and this report needs to contain type and size of the goods, technical requirements, but also the qualitative notes, sustainable and efficient transport. Right now, it's not active. We're not asking it to our suppliers yet because we are still in a negotiating phase with our other departments. So these are the clauses, but I'm not gonna dig deeper on this. And then we also have like a lot of European projects. Right now, we're also like very set in Urbane. It's a last mile delivery solution project, and also in Code Zero. And in this, we are trying to change the behavior of customers for the in e-commerce. So we try to avoid home deliveries, but it's still an open question how to do it. I think every city has the same questions. And then we also participating in a lot of other European projects, but rather as a peer city. So what matters for us is collaboration, but also experimentation, as Veerle mentioned, and scaling up what works. So what we have seen in some European projects is that if it works in a small city, it can work in bigger cities as well, or the other way around. If it works in big cities, it can work in small cities. And also what we see is if you do it by small steps and if you do it smart, can lead to big results. what we're still facing is a lot of unanswered and unsolved issues. So we're a big city, but we don't always have the answer. I think it's the same for Mechelen, for Ghent, for Leuven. We always try to find solutions. We always facing new issues. But I think the platform like CVNet and other workshops and online meetings is the way to go, because we can share our experiences. I think that was it. Yeah, I went through it rather fast, but yeah, if you have any questions about a particular project, I didn't mention all the projects, but yeah, shoot.
Thank you very much, Anton, for those local insights from Antwerp. Are there any questions about how Antwerp is tackling these challenges as probably the most famous example of a big Flemish city with logistical issues? Or any other questions about other topics we discussed today, or topics that weren't mentioned but that you like to discuss? I see the hand from Bart Dumoulin. Go ahead, Bart.
Thank you, Merten. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you to all the presenters for the interesting presentations. It's very interesting to have an overview of what's going on in Flanders on sustainable city logistics at this moment. I have 2 or maybe 3 questions, if possible. We have got an overview of all kind of European funded projects. Very interesting, fine to see a lot of piloting that's going on. My question on this is, and it's to all the speakers, in fact, or those who want to answer, what is the potential for the upscaling of the results of these projects, if possible? A lot of things have been tested, solutions have been tested, but I see a lot of European projects that end when the subsidy stops, when the project's over, and it's my concern is how can this be transferred into real policy, into real life? Maybe there are some obstacles on this, then we need to find solutions. So the first question is how can we tackle the barriers for the implementation and a real policy on sustainable city logistics? First question is to Marij. I was impressed by the number of deliveries that was replaced from vans to cargo bikes. So the higher number of van trips were replaced by a lower number of cargo bike trips. And my question there was there research done on the financial impact of this shift? So because that would give a good idea on the potential for psychologistics. And my third question is about the Sustainable Urban Logistics Plan. Thank you, Anton, for the introduction on this, of what's happening in Antwerp. I would be interested to know a little bit more on the other cities, because in Flanders we have 5 cities that are, that have to make Sustainable Urban Logistics Plan. In Wallonia we have other 5 cities, and Brussels is there as well. So if possible, I would like to have a state of play on the evolution to develop this Sustainable Urban Logistics Plan. Thank you.
Really interesting questions, Bart. I propose we take them on one by one. So maybe just if we start with the upscaling options. Marij, I thought you raised your hand as well during that question.
Yes.
Or not? Okay, there you go.
Good questions. I'm glad to see you're on fire, Mart. So yeah, how to upscale after the subsidy has ended. Of course, you need money, but the reason why I switched to the food surplus pilot in the Greenlock project, we first had another one, is that it's very much, it's more attractive to more aldermen and more teams within our city council. So it has sustainability, it has mobility, it has economics and trade, it has care. And so by adding more meaning to the use case, it's not just about transport, it's about transporting food surpluses and bringing it to social organizations. I really notice the difference. People call me, they want to cooperate, they are enthusiastic, whereas if you only talk about making something more sustainable, then everybody sees it as a burden, and well, it's not going to work, and who is going to pay for this? And yeah, so they see more problems than they see solutions or good things happening on many themes. So I will still have to find money to proceed with the project afterwards, but more people will try and find the money to proceed with the project, or that's what I think at the moment. And also by using technology, so software and data, you can analyze the flows better and link them better, make them more efficient. And that's what I said in the chat as well. If you make things more efficient by using technology, the price can be lower as well, and maybe you need less money to subsidize it. And that may so that was for the first question. I think the second question was more for Veerle, but
I think Klaas also raised his hand. Maybe he has an addition to this.
Yes, I just want to add, and maybe it's a more generic view than specific projects, but in my opinion, it's really if you focus too much on pilot projects, then it stays with pilot projects. So, for instance, for the Flemish government, and it's not always local governments, but also the Flemish government. Like there are some exemptions on weight directive for electric vans, for instance, the 3.5 tons to the 4.25 tons. It's also a federal government thing, but like I think sometimes we stay too long in pilot phases, and we try and we test and we do, and then it takes too long to really implement it into legislation. And if you really want to change things, then we can test, we try it, we do pilots, and then we learn from it and we really go for it. And there too many times there are then, okay, we hesitate and we don't do it, and then let's leave it for a year and maybe prolong a little bit the pilots, and then, but that's not a way to really provide businesses, cities with a clear pathway on how do we move forward with these city logistics or logistics in general. So I think it's a really important thing to provide a good legislation as well.
Any other additions to Veerle? Go ahead, feel free.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Klaas says, and that's what we experience now in Mechelen. We have done many pilot projects, but sometimes we don't realize an upscaling because we didn't adapt our policy. So now it's up to the politicians, I would say, to define and implement flanking policy to further motivate efficiency gains and sustainability gains. And I forgot what the second question was. It was about Greenlog and
yes, there was another question from the shift from vans to bikes and what the financial impact would be.
Again, this is a subsidy story. We financed the cross-docking in the hub and the last mile with the bike. We financed that out of the Greenlog budget. So there was no extra cost for the consumer. But it was really a research project. We cooperated very strongly with the University of Antwerp. We did a lot of surveys and talks with the participants. And one of the questions was, if it is more sustainable, are you prepared to pay extra? And the majority said that they are prepared to pay extra, but only 1 or 2 euros. But for me, it was very surprising, because within the e-commerce world, where every delivery is for free, it surprised me that anyways consumers are prepared to pay for it if it is more sustainable.
Okay. Is that an answer to your question, Bart, or were we aiming at a different aspect of the impact, or?
No, I think it's part of the answer when it comes to the project itself. So I understood, Vele, that there was no research done on, because since the city probably has financed the difference of cost of using vans versus cargo bikes, probably the city knows what the extra cost would be, or is that too short? I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. We know what we paid.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. Because of course you have this gain in efficiency from the change and the gain in sustainability as well. From your opinion, would it be a good business case to continue with this shift even financially, or do you think no, we pay too much as a city to make this sustainable when it comes to financial impact?
Yeah, at this moment it is still too costly. And you need new kinds of cooperation and new kinds of business models where the big courier companies are willing and able to cooperate and to cut up, you could say, the delivery trajectory, that they service the middle mile and the first mile, and that the last mile is being done by a local bike courier. With not doing the last mile, you could say that they are gaining time and money. And with the gain there, you could say that there's the possibility to finance that last mile. That's what is being said in theory, but we have not seen it happen in practice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for all the answers. There was the final question, the third one, about an update on the SULPs. Do the other cities besides Antwerp or Antwerp as well have an update on this, or something you can share about it? What's happening in Leuven or in Mechelen or in Ghent? If not, so be it.
Yeah, I can answer that. We really have a board of aldermen and mayor who likes to do things and not to think not to study too much. So it's not in the planning to make a real SULP, but we try with little steps to infiltrate in policy making.
Maybe just to add to my question, because European Commission has stated which cities in Belgium have to develop a sustainable urban logistics plan. In Flanders, it's Antwerp, Bruges, Ghent, Hasselt, and Leuven. Brussels, of course, and then for Wallonia, Arlon, Charleroi, Liège, Namur, and Ottigny, Louvain-la-Neuve. So, yes. Yeah. I see there is a representative of Liège Métropole, Olivier. Maybe you can tell something about sustainable urban logistics plan in Liège.
You listen. Yeah, it's okay.
Go ahead, Olivier.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks a lot again for all these presentation and all these input. In fact, we had a urban sustainable mobility plan. Less sustainable than the European level as now, but it was made some years ago, almost 6 years now. And in hindsight, we decided at the moment to avoid to discuss about urban logistics, because at the same moment the city of Liège has upgrading the urban mobility plan of the city. So the city mobility plan is now available since 3 years, I think. And they want to make a lot of effort about logistics, because we have an airport, cargo airport, also the harbor, the Maas River. We have a lot of possibility to avoid many cars and many trucks on the road. And unfortunately, it's very difficult because we made a lot of studies. We don't test so much, but we made a lot of studies. We made studies about using the river. We made studies about intermobility plan with train, railway, the port, everyone's. We made some logistic platform in past, and finally it's still increasing. Of course, we have private initiative with cargo bike. We have two companies. One is very active. Always we show us as yeah, we need to take the lead in Wallonia about that, because we are the main cities and the main urban area. But it's very difficult to. We are facing, also as you explained, some difficulties at political level, because it's need to change regulation, to change many aspects of the regulation about mobility. For myself, I think we need to have some a low emission zone, as you have in Flanders and as in Brussels. I think it's one of the main. Yeah, it's main push, I think, for avoid a lot of old cars, old trucks on the road. But if you want to promote cargo bike, I think it's a very good idea. And the small company we had here, Rayon 9, they are quite good, quite active, but they don't have infrastructure. We have also small streets. We are also medieval town, and they need to make some true decision by the politic. And in Wallonia, we are facing big difficulties about finance in the big cities. So they are quite afraid to be more strong about mobility and to, yeah, okay, we will reserve that part of the public space for cargo bike, for, I don't know, even about the Maas River. It's cost a lot to organize all the docks, you know, for make perfect and fast delivery. It could be a very good idea. We have also many traffics on the Maas River. So it's needed to make some choice about Wallonia. It's a regional level at that moment, about regulation, about what kind of boat we can use on the river. So everything is always, we have a lot of good idea, we have a lot of good studies, but implement it's complicated. And I am not sure the population is also open to change habits, as you explain all, and even sometimes we are surprised, as Vel explained about the cost, but in my building in the city center, I have some young people, and they decided to. They don't leave the building only for work, so everything is coming by delivery. So and even small package, and we have with bpost we have implemented some more how to say, it's low cost, but small one, not the big one, in the streets, in the center. I don't have impression people use it. They prefer to reschedule a new delivery and don't move. So I believe it's a question about behavior and habits at the political level. They need to change the rules, because I think if without no regulation, without no strong decision, people will not change their habits so easily. So yeah, and
Lots
I
of
don't
work
know
still to be done.
Sorry?
Lots of work still to be done, if I hear you
I
correctly.
think yes, and I don't know about Charleroi, and for I think Namur tried to implement some things, They made a lot of works inside the city center, a new infrastructure, new bridge. Also, we are several cities in Belgium with a river. It's a luck, but it's also it's a problem because we have bridge, and you have bridge well designed for cargo bike, and it's not always we have all bridge as every city is in Belgium. So yeah, for people walking and a classical bike, it's okay most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. But for cargo bike, it needs more space. So it's an issue. And I think cargo bike is a really good solution for the last mile, and also to use the water by boat. I think it's with small delivery point. Like for bpost, but it's need that people walk to this delivery point, because if they don't walk, the problem will be the same. It will be maybe a guy on a bike who take the package to the home of these people.
Okay. Lots of work to be done. Will interesting to see what happens in Liège over the next few years, Olivier. But you already indicated in the previous discussion we had that you were also looking forward to see things move and to get going.
We hope.
So thank you for your answer. We have 2 more minutes remaining. So if there's one more question from the audience, we can answer that one, but it will be the last one so we can stay within our time slot. Otherwise, I'll just send all the presentations, the recording of this webinar to all participants, also to the ones who weren't here today. I'll include the contact details of all the speakers, if that's okay, so you can contact them with a specific question you have. And in the future, we'd like to see you on other CVNet.be events. I'll mention some in the email I'll send you later today. We have a workshop planned on inclusive mobility and transport poverty next month. In September, we have a really interesting site visit to Sint-Niklaas, where the local authority will guide us through the city and discuss topics like parking management and urban vehicle access regulations. So quite a controversial and emotional topic in many cities and towns. So feel free to register for that as well. I'll send the links to all of you, and we'll see each other later, hopefully. Thank you all for being here and have a good day.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.